Stand by. Go ahead, Ms. Bey.
Good afternoon. My name is Maryam Bey, and I'm the host of Television. Today, let me just first say this. I get so excited every time I do a program because all of the guests that I've had on this show have been phenomenal, powerful people. And today we have another one, Mr. Larry Johnson, Brother Larry Johnson. But before we get into his discussion about what he's going to be talking about, because those of you who have Facebook, you know I posted it on Facebook earlier today. But I want to talk about, for some reason, I'm starting to get a lot of folks who have published their book. And I wanted to highlight a book today. It's by Dr. Pamela Jones. And for those of you who know Pastor Jones, if you want to know anything about reentry, she is the person who you talk to. And she's written a book. It's called 10 Secret Plans for Victorious Living. So I just want to put that out for her. Also, we've had one of my guests who was honored in March, Alana. When she was on the show, she talked about some of the things that she wanted to do. And one of the things that she wanted to do was move to California to do her software engineering stuff, because you know she works on Wall Street. So guess what? She put it in the universe, and that's about to get ready to happen. Now, I'm not going to tell you how much she's making, because you could just imagine. She's 21 years old, a young girl from Newark, New Jersey, who is about to blow up. And I am so happy for her. And the other person I want to talk about is Lance Mcgorr, if you guys remember him. He's doing great with his banana pudding. You know, I'm so proud of him. And also Brian, who has his own construction company. He is doing great with that as well. So we are about highlighting local people who are about doing their thing. So having said that, now we're going to talk to Larry. So let me tell you how I met Larry. I was talking to Amina Baraka. And so Amina, we were talking about the city back in the 60s, what was going on during that time, all the stuff that was going on. I told her, I came here in the 60s, when I was a young girl and everything. And so then we started progressing into all the stuff that had happened with her and Amiri. So then she said, I happened to mention Sterling Street, because I was saying, I couldn't find it. And then she said, you have to talk to Larry. I said, oh, okay. And so now, here you are.
Yes.
So why is she telling me to talk to you?
Well, it has to do with, I've been around the Barakas since I was 11 years old.
Okay.
You're
from Newark?
I'm from Newark.
Okay.
I grew up in Newark. I wasn't born in Newark, but I grew up in Newark. And I got to be close to that family from the age of 11 years old, all the way up until this day. I'm still close to that family.
Yes.
And it's been a journey. It's been a beautiful relationship. It's been not a straight arrow, but it's been a journey that I would not trade for nothing in the world, in terms of the knowledge, information. And right now I'm writing this book about Sterling Street, because Sterling Street is the foundation of what you see Newark is today.
Yes.
And it covers so much of what you're looking at, and there's going to be, Sterling Street's going to be a trilogy.
Okay.
Of not just one book, and that came from, discussions with Amina, and I said, Amina, I had never written a book. And she said, well, he never did neither till he wrote his first one.
She needs to be a comedian.
Well, she's a highly integrated, very honest woman.
Yes, she is.
She's very direct, and
yes,
I love that about her.
Me too.
She's been close to my family, my mother, until she passed away. So there's a lot of stories that I want to tell about Sterling Street. But the first part of the book is dealing with the whole migration of the families who came on Strong Street.
Okay.
What brought those families together? What was the energy? And we was all kids. And this book is dealing with before 1965. You know, and in that book, I'll be sharing different stories, you know, of how my mother initially came to Newark, you know, in 1952, you know, and she left she had 4 kids, but she left them in the South. She came up here to looking for a better life because they were sharecroppers,
right?
You know, in the South, and
yeah.
you know, they wasn't educated, you know, but they had the passion for living and life, right. And she succeeded, you know, to raise all of her kids based on her power of that vision of what she wanted in life for her family. And so I talks about that, and I also talk about the different families on that street and about the kids. We was all kids, you know. In the book, I'm talking about some of the mothers. The book is being dedicated to the mothers of Strong Street. The name of the book will be Strong Street.
Okay.
I'm in the process of writing it now. It's going to be dedicated to the guardian spirits, which are about 3 or 4 mothers that I'm going to highlight in the book who touched my life.
What are some of their names?
Some of them was like Ada Stokes.
Oh, okay.
Miss Slade. You know, Mama Slade, as we would affectionately call her. You know, my mother, Annie Norman, Miss Ann, Miss Johnson, they would call her.
Okay.
You know, and how we all came together as kids on that street and learned from, you know, see, Leroy Jones at the time, he came back in 1965. He didn't move on the street till 1965.
Okay.
Okay, so this book is dealing before that period right now, you know. And then when he came in, he was already famous. You know, he was a writer, you know, he had put on plays and stuff. But we as kids didn't know that, you know. And some of the things that he did for that community stood out.
What were some of those things?
Well, you know, like say, first of all, he painted the building red, black, and green.
Yeah, he did.
And so we as kids was looking and seeing that and going like, wow, that is something, you know. But our parents was very hesitant. They didn't accept that right away, you know. But because of all the ills of a upside down society we live in, that what happened was we had everything that you could imagine that is not good for society, whether it was drunk driving, whether it was physical abuse of women. All those things that you see now was there. But the thing was, it was mainly the women of that street who was the guardian spirit who covered and make sure we was all safe within that environment.
Okay.
So when Baraka came on that street, they was hesitant because he took the
building. He came on as Leroy Jones, or did he come on as Baraka?
No, he was Leroy Jones.
Right, that's right. Okay,
so Jones.
When
that
he
didn't
came,
come till later.
Right, okay. So when he came on the street as Leroy Jones.
Right, and he took and transformed that number 33, we call it the Spirit House. He transformed that building into a theater. Okay, and we as kids on the block there was a lot of boys on that block, and we was fascinated by them because they didn't dress like regular people. You know, they had African garments.
They had the dashikis,
the afro,
right, red, black, and green.
Yes, and so we was like, it was like mesmerized. We was like, wow, what is this? This is different, you know. And we got close enough to be around that environment and watch how he was making things happen, you know. And that building got transformed into a theater, you know. And in that building, we learned how to act. Like one of the first things, which would be in the book, is like we wanted to be little writers and poets and reporters. And Baraka was always
because of what you saw him doing.
Yes. So we started a paper called Strong Street Newspaper. Under him, under Leroy.
Okay.
You know, and that was he would taught us how to pen and pad. But the problem was him and Sylvia, which was Amina at the time. They saw the fact that most of the kids couldn't read or write. And so that's when they started classes in there, you know, within the Spirit House, you know. They had Arabic classes, they had theater, they had production of plays, they had like Sun Ra would play there, you know, it was all within that house that he transformed into a theater. And we as kids was part of that transformation. We took part in helping knock down the walls. You know, kids always want to be destructive. This wall got to come down. Yeah, we tear it down, you know. And he transformed into a theater there. And so that was part of me being there. And a lot of other kids. So we learned how to run a mimeograph machine. Some of us learned how to put on productions. Later on in the book, way down the line, you'll see we had a state-of-the-art cable TV station way before it was popular.
Inside of?
No. Later on in another building as the organization expanded.
Oh, I see. Okay, we'll get into that later. Okay.
That's later on, way down. You know, down the road. You know? I mean, I'm going to be touching on stuff in and out, but, you know, so at that point, we was put out on the street and says, go interview your neighbors by him. And we got to learn how to read and write. We got to learn how to put on production. We got to act in certain plays as little kids on that block with him directing us, you know.
So him being there and the organization being there, that gave the young people on the block opportunities. He gave them opportunities.
Yeah, but it wasn't an organization. It was the Spirit House that him and Amina had set up.
Right.
You understand? Which was functioning there, and it was more about the cultural awareness.
Right. No, I understand that.
Educating us at that time.
And that's what I'm saying. He gave, by them doing that, that allowed you all to have more opportunities because they were teaching young people how to read, teaching you how to use the machines, teaching you about the culture, going into theater. All of that was giving you different skills.
Yes, but more importantly, traveling with him.
Okay.
He took the kids. And see, that's what I think one of the things that won over the mothers on that side. A lot of fathers never accepted it, which is okay.
Right.
But the mothers saw that we was benefiting from that. They became around to love them.
Because the children were benefiting.
Exactly. We was benefiting. You know, I remember me as a kid, I was I was at Robert Treat going to school.
Okay.
And I had to write a report. And I remember running up to his house asking him can he type? Because he could type real fast, you know. He was like a...
When you say he, you're talking
about... Leroy.
Okay.
You know, he could type. And I went up there, asked him to type my paper for, you know, the school, and he did. And I came and I had to read the report, you know, and I got like I forgot I was going to get a big A on it. I got like I think a B+, because when I read it, she said, I said sandwich. I didn't say sandwich.
Oh,
you know, so
okay.
I was like, oh, okay, you know. But, you know, stuff like that went on. And then he had a production coming in the Spirit House called GI Production, which was, you know, all his little pamphlets and writing, because he constantly wrote.
Right.
And we would learn how to collate them, how to staple them, how to, you know, put all it together. It was like a workshop that covered so many different phases of life.
Right.
You know, and when he traveled, he took us with him. You know,
what are some of the places that you?
Well, he would go to New York to the Village. You know, they would travel to go to put on production and plays, and everybody had a job to do. You know.
Well, that's when I mentioned earlier that this whole process that they were taking you through, you and the young people there, they were preparing them. They were giving them skills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And those skills took a lot of us into deal with life at a much higher level than it was more of an education than you get in school.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, when you get to go and travel around, you expand yourself.
Right.
You know, because you get to learn other cultures, other people, and how other people live. You know, and we got exposed to that as kids. I mean, went to Africa twice with Leroy. You know, before I graduated high school.
Wow.
You know.
So wait a minute, I want to back up. You just said that in the 60s, before you graduated from high school, you went to Africa twice.
Yes.
With Leroy Jones?
Yeah, it was more, but that's later on now, okay?
Okay, no, it doesn't matter what,
yeah.
We're just having this discussion about the book and about the activities that was happening during that time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that, but the
how did you pay for it?
That was later on, in the organization took care of that.
Okay, no, it doesn't matter if it's later on. I just want to know, how did you pay for it? The organization took care of it.
Of course, because we had developed a huge organization. It went from the Spirit House to the Committee for Unified to the CAP.
Right.
So when I mention things like that, those are things in the future that will be in the book, you know, and how did it get paid for, because the organization had a lot of different programs. We had a bookstore, you know, we had a restaurant, we had different programs that the organization was doing, and it was politically also involved with changing the city. That was one of the
and that's one of the things that we're going to get into part 2, because that really transformed the city.
Yes.
You know, and what you're giving us the foundation right now of how we got there, but it just triggered me, because when you said that he took you to Africa twice before you graduated from high school, so he recognized, Leroy Jones recognized the importance of exposing young people to their culture.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, and he was a revolutionary because he was committed to always trying to find a way to struggle and make it better for our people. Okay, a lot of people got off. It's like riding a train, and people get off at different stops.
Right.
You know, like if I tell you all the stuff we went to, and I'll say, okay, you know me as Larry Johnson.
Yes.
That's how you met me. But some people know me as Tariq. Okay, then some people know me as Jaletti. Some people know me as Sultani. It's the period of where they got on and where they got off.
Right.
On this journey that I'm talking about.
Right.
Okay, but then at the same time, there was a lot of people who benefited from that period. You know, like Sterling Street was the place that came together for the United Brothers. You know, when you talk about people like Harold Wilson.
Oh yes, I remember Harold. Yes.
You talk about people like Ken Gibson, who became the mayor.
Right.
You know, who they all came on Sterling Street. You know, John Bug, who was a businessman. You know what I'm saying? Russell Bingham, you know, who was an old-time Democrat. Back then, he was our senior there, and we called him Baba and Shuri. You know, he was an advisor to Baraka during that time. You know, so it was a period that all those energy and forces was coming together because of Baraka. I mean, you know, Martin Luther King came on Sterling Street during that period. You know, the day he came on Sterling Street, I was on punishment. I couldn't go outside.
Oh wow! You
know, but then my sister tells me about how she was sitting on the steps of the Spirit House, and he touched her on the head and says, "Oh, I have a pretty little girl at home." Before he went up into the Spirit House, you know, H. Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael, you know, you name them, they all came. But we was kids. We did not.
You didn't realize who you were in the space with.
The thing was, we was more focused on Baraka, Leroy. You understand? Because he would come outside and play with us like a kid. Okay. We loved that as kids. You understand? If we was playing football, basketball, because he had ran track, he was, you know, he would come outside and he would get involved with the kids, and the mothers from the windows was watching.
Right.
Okay. And later on, they, they got involved with that. You know, I remember when he was locked up, and Amina come running down the street barefoot with Obalaji in her arms. They asked my mother to watch. You know, Obalaji. You understand why she had to go up?
This is when the rebellion started.
Yes,
okay.
The rebellion. You know, my mother protected their papers and protected their son. You know, the firstborn, Oba.
Right.
You know, so we've always had a close connection. You know, to that. To me, that family is the first family in Newark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know.
You're right.
Yeah. So I think that this book is being told from somebody from the inside. I watch people who talk about it, but they can't really talk about it I'm talking about it from unsung heroes, the people who were the foot soldiers on the inside of this whole, I was there from the beginning, and when I was there to the end, turned the lights off and I left. That was it,
Right.
And it was a good period up into the 70s, from the, from 65 when he came back on that block, and we learned a lot. I mean, we learned a lot, and we met a lot of people who made our lives different, who actually was, like somebody could teach you something.
Yes.
But then when you get to be around other people, it makes that knowledge be real to you.
Right, yes.
It's
like when you're talking about Martin Luther King, and then he actually comes to Sterling House. That makes it like more profound.
Real, more profound.
Yes.
It becomes, that energy.
Right.
Like that day, I'm looking out the window because I'm on punishment, and he's coming up the Spirit House. But when you look back down Sterling Street, all the way down, you could almost see downtown Newark because it was like on a hill.
Right.
You couldn't see the street was covered with people.
Right.
That followed him all the way up to the Spirit House.
Wow.
Until he went in there,
Right.
And I was like, Mom, I want to go out there. And she's like, you're not going nowhere. You standing right here.
That's right, because you're on punishment.
I'm on punishment. And Miss Ann didn't play.
That's right.
That was my mother's name. Everybody would say, no, Miss Ann don't play. So that was some of the, but it was such a beautiful time, to be growing up as a kid. It was very adventurous, like whenever he went to New York, he would always take the kids, like my brother could tell you stories about when he would go to New York with it.
Right.
He would always take us, and he would always be there for the kids. There was a kid who got ran over on Sterling Street, and by a drunk driver. And the guy was so drunk, he stopped the car on top of the kid, and he got out of the car, and he started looking under the car to see what he hit, and the kid was still under there.
Did he live?
Yes, he did live.
Good.
But what happened was, the car started rolling back on the kid because he did not put it in park. He was so drunk.
Oh my God.
And family, I've actually talked to that family to this day, and the kid is fine.
Oh, good.
But Baraka, or Leroy at that time, he came out, and we had the street every summer blocked off. You understand, to make it safe for us to be out there as kids. He went down to City Hall and did whatever he had to do. And, back then we would turn on the fire hydrants with the water, and the police coming and run.
Remember?
You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And he gave them, that's when they came out and they gave us the sprinkler caps and, all that. And we would have what we call Play Street. In the book, you're going to hear some people talking about the Play Street, where, in that Spirit House in the basement, there was all kind of like athletic equipment that was there, that when the sun came up in the summertime, you go to the Spirit House, you bring out all that stuff that's in there to go make it a Play Street.
Wow. So we're going to stop right here because I got that 5-minute warning.
Okay.
But we're going to continue part 2.
Okay.
But when I hear you talk about this, you know what it reminds me of? Because during that time, as with you, growing up during that time for me was real exciting as well. And listening to you kind of remind me of what the Black Panthers was doing.
Right.
Because the Black Panthers were doing the same thing as well.
Yes.
And it was like all over the country.
Yes.
People were rising up. Black folks were rising up, doing their thing. But my name is Maryam Bey, and we're going to have part 2 of this. Thank you very much, and see you in a few.